What if the same man who pardoned rappers and politicians also decided to free reality TV stars convicted of fraud? Because that's exactly what just happened. Todd and Julie Chrisley, the once beloved faces of Chrisleys Knows Best, are no longer inmates. After spending over 2 years behind bars, the Chrisleys are now walking free, all thanks to a full presidential pardon from Donald Trump. But why would a former president step in for a pair of celebrities busted for financial crimes? That's the question everyone's asking, and the answers might not be what you think. Let's rewind for a second. Before prison jumpsuits and federal charges, Todd and Julie were living a dream, one built on luxury, fame, and their hit reality show. Audiences fell in love with their over-the-top Southern charm and family drama. They were rich, loud, and unapologetically flashy. But as it turns out, the mansion, the designer clothes, the lavish vacations weren't exactly paid for honestly. In 2019, the Chrisleys were indicted on multiple counts of bank fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. Prosecutors claimed they had created fake documents to secure over $30 million in loans. They were also accused of hiding money from the IRS and failing to pay taxes for years. In short, their glamorous lifestyle was allegedly financed by lies and manipulation. Todd always denied the charges, blaming a former employee for framing them, but the jury wasn't convinced. By 2022, the verdict was in. Todd was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Julie got 7. The family was devastated. Their show was canceled, their image destroyed. And just like that, the Chrisleys went from red carpets to cold concrete cells. But their daughter, Savannah, wasn't about to let the world forget about her parents. Over the next 2.5 years, she launched an all-out media campaign. Podcast interviews, emotional Instagram posts, TikTok updates from visiting day. She became the face of the Free the Chrisleys movement. And while some dismissed her efforts as desperate PR, others saw something more: a young woman determined to reunite her broken family. Still, no one could have predicted what came next. Out of nowhere, just days ago, former President Trump issued a full pardon to Todd and Julie Chrisley. The announcement sent shockwaves across the internet. Savannah cried tears of joy outside the prison gates. Supporters cheered, Trump flags flew, and everyone else? They were left wondering what kind of connections or motivations could have led to such a shocking decision. But this was just the beginning of the story, because life behind bars didn't just punish the Chrisleys, it changed them. And what happened during those 2 years of silence might explain why Trump stepped in when he did. While fans were still wrapping their heads around the Chrisleys' sudden downfall, Todd and Julie were quietly adjusting to a new reality, one that looked nothing like their perfectly staged TV life. Todd was sent to a federal prison in Pensacola, Florida, while Julie was incarcerated over 300 miles away at a facility in Lexington, Kentucky. For a couple that had branded themselves on family unity, being torn apart by prison walls was more than just punishment, it was psychological torture. According to reports, Todd struggled with isolation and was placed in a facility where he was targeted, not protected. Rumors swirled that he had faced harassment behind bars and that his appearance had drastically changed. Gone was the polished, flamboyant man America had watched for years. Instead, sources described him as thinner, quieter, and, at times, unrecognizable. Julie, on the other hand, reportedly faced her own health concerns in prison. There were whispers of deteriorating conditions and long periods without proper medical care, but neither of them publicly spoke, because they couldn't. Their daughter, Savannah, became their only voice. Savannah Chrisley, who had grown up in front of the cameras, quickly took on a new role: activist. While most reality stars fade after scandal, Savannah doubled down. She launched a podcast, Unlocked with Savannah Chrisley, where she shared emotional updates about her parents, their treatment, and her determination to get them home. Her social media transformed from influencer posts to full-blown legal commentary. She cried on camera, she called out the justice system, and she wasn't afraid to name drop. She even started connecting with politicians, attorneys, and high-profile allies, some of whom reportedly had direct ties to Trump's inner circle. The message was clear. She wasn't just asking for sympathy, she was building a movement. For over 2 years, Savannah updated her followers with every detail: how she took custody of her younger brother and niece, how holidays felt empty, how she believed the system had failed her family. She wasn't trying to clean their name. She admitted they made mistakes. But she argued the punishment was too harsh, the system too broken, and the entire ordeal felt more like a public execution than justice. And here's the thing: people started listening. public opinion began to shift, at least among their fan base. Influencers reposted her pleas, former co-stars voiced support. Even some critics admitted that the justice system's inconsistencies deserved more scrutiny. But what most people didn't realize was that something big was happening behind the scenes. As Savannah told her story to millions, someone in Trump's camp was watching. And just as her momentum seemed to peak, a miracle arrived. Not in the form of early release, not parole, a full presidential pardon. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. Why them? Because as we peel back the layers, it becomes clear this wasn't just about a family's pain. It might have been about power, influence, and strategy. And what came next confirmed just how complicated this pardon really was. When Donald Trump pardoned someone, the internet usually breaks. And this time was no different. The news hit like a bombshell. The Chrisleys were free, no parole, no halfway house, just done. It was a full presidential pardon, meaning all criminal penalties were wiped clean. Or almost all, because here's the twist. A pardon doesn't erase the crime. Todd and Julie are still convicted felons in the eyes of the law. The convictions remain on their record, which could impact things like voting rights, gun ownership, and even future sentencing if they ever run into legal trouble again. So why did Trump do it? That's where things get murky. Legal analysts were stunned. These weren't nonviolent drug offenses or politically symbolic pardons. This was tax fraud and bank fraud, major white-collar crimes involving tens of millions of dollars. The same kind of financial corruption Trump himself has been accused of in various investigations. Was this personal, strategic, or just another headline grab? Some speculate it was all about optics. In the eyes of Trump's base, the justice system is broken, selectively harsh, politically motivated, and biased against certain groups. By pardoning a wealthy, Christian Southern family punished for financial crimes, Trump might have been sending a message. This system doesn't just hurt the poor or the marginalized, it crushes people like you too. Others think Savannah's relentless campaigning actually worked. Her visibility, emotional appeals, and massive online following created just enough pressure and just the right story for Trump to capitalize on. He gave a popular, if controversial, family their life back. In return, he earned headlines, loyalty, and a new wave of support from the forgotten middle class who feel the system is rigged against them. And then there's a darker theory. Some critics argue this wasn't about justice or compassion, it was about building alliances. The Chrisleys may not be political insiders, but they have influence. They're reality TV royalty with loyal fans and name recognition. Pardoning them sends a signal to other celebrities. Trump rewards loyalty. Speak up, show support, and you might get saved too. No matter the reasoning, the backlash came fast. Legal experts called it tone deaf. Social media exploded with posts accusing Trump of favoritism and corruption. Why pardon convicted fraudsters while so many non-violent offenders remain locked up? Why this case? Why now? But Savannah didn't care about the politics. She cried in interviews, she hugged her parents, she thanked Trump publicly and passionately, even calling him a man of the people. According to her, this was a miracle, a second chance, and proof that her faith had paid off. Still, as Todd and Julie stepped into the sunlight for the first time in years, another question started circulating online, one that could change everything. What if this wasn't just about the past? Because sources close to the family say the Chrisleys might not be done with fame or drama. And what they're planning next could take this story from scandal to something even more outrageous. For most people, a presidential pardon would be the end of the story. But if we've learned anything about the Chrisleys, it's that they never walk away quietly. Just days after Todd and Julie were released, rumors started flying. Reality show producers were already reaching out. Multiple sources claim that networks and streaming platforms are actively pitching reboot deals to the family, some even offering seven-figure contracts. Apparently, everyone wants the exclusive on what prison was really like for the Chrisleys and how they plan to rebuild their empire. Savannah has already teased a possible comeback on her podcast. She hinted that a docuseries might be in the works and even dropped phrases like unfinished business and a bigger purpose. If true, the Chrisleys could become the first family in reality TV history to go from a federal prison sentence to a full-blown media resurgence, all in the same news cycle. But that's not even the most shocking part. Sources close to the family say Todd is considering writing a tell-all book. Not just about prison life, but about the legal system, fame, betrayal. And yes, even his relationship with Trump. There are whispers that he feels used by certain people in his circle before the trial, and this might be his way of setting the record straight. Some claim he's already been in touch with publishers. And Julie? She's reportedly focusing on faith-based speaking engagements, using her story as a testimony about survival, forgiveness, and resilience. If she follows through, it could launch an entirely new career path rooted in public speaking and spiritual advocacy. But here's where it gets controversial again. Critics are calling the comeback plans tone-deaf. People are angry that two convicted felons might profit from their own crimes, even after a pardon. And legally, it's a gray area. The Son of Sam laws, designed to prevent criminals from profiting off their crimes, don't always apply after a presidential pardon and vary by state. Which means the Chrisleys could, in theory, make millions off a book, show, or exclusive deal with zero legal pushback. Meanwhile, legal experts warn that they still have to be careful. The convictions haven't been expunged, and any future slip-up could bring even harsher consequences. One misstep, and their names could be back in the courtroom, this time with even fewer people on their side. But if you think that's stopping them, think again. The Chrisleys are treating this as a second act. Not just a return to TV, but a full redemption arc. They're already reclaiming their social media presence, teasing big announcements, and hinting that their story is just beginning. Savannah even said on her podcast, "This isn't the end. This is just part of a much bigger plan." Love them or hate them, you can't ignore them. From luxury homes to prison cells and now a presidential pardon, Todd and Julie Chrisley have lived one of the wildest reality show storylines off camera. And now that they're back, they just might turn the next chapter into their biggest spectacle yet.